What's up, guys? It's the real Corey Tenderson, and today, guys, we are going to be ranking the Uncharted series. Now, if you don't know, that's actually a video game series. So far we've done one movie series, one TV series, and now one video game series. Um, yeah, those are really the three main things that I can really do. Maybe I'm not sure how I would be able to do, like, books. I'm not sure if that would work. Maybe music. Maybe I'll find a way. But, basically, Uncharted, if you don't know, that's basically the video game people always refer to it as the video game version of Indiana Jones, which I actually kind of find dumb. It's nothing like Indiana Jones. The only thing that's similar is that he's a treasure hunter. So, that's it. That's all. That's the only similarity. And this is basically the male version of Tomb Raider, sorry. God, I can't believe I messed it up. I haven't played Tomb Raider games. However, my friends told me that Tomb Raider is kind of just Uncharted, but it's bad at building plot. It's more based around, like, the gameplay. But that's the thing with Uncharted, is it balances gameplay and plot. Or story, plot, story development, we'll say. It's, it can it balances those two, and that's great. That's why I love it. That's why it's probably my favorite video game series of all time. So yeah, we're gonna rank them today, and, I'm not gonna be counting, Lost Abyss, or was it called, wasn't that, or that might have been the comic series. They made a comic series, believe it or not. But there was one game that was technically the third game in the series. But it's very unknown. I haven't even played it. I think it was on PS Vita. So I'm not going to be counting that. So just the 5 main games. There's 5 of them. So let's get into it. Number 5. Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. Now, this was actually the first in the series. Now, usually people, this is more or less movie series, people are like, oh, the first is always the best, which actually isn't always true, actually, but still, usually that's the case for some movie series, but in this case, the first is probably the worst. Now, this isn't to say that I hate it. This is, like I said, I'm optimistic about, like, this type of stuff, like movies, TVs, and video games. So this is one of those lists where it's like none of them are, I don't dislike any of them, but this is basically my least favorite, we'll say. Because I think that's why Uncharted 2 was so good. That's why a lot of people see that as the best game. That and nostalgia, which I don't really think that's a valid reason, but we'll get into that. I do want to make a video about that. But, nothing against your opinions. If you like Uncharted 2 the best, that's fine. But the thing is, Uncharted 2 was a lot better than this. So they improved on almost everything. And that's because this game is actually very slow when it comes to gameplay. Especially, for example, climbing, what this thing is, what a lot of Uncharted is known for. It's half known for, like, this climbing stuff and, like, the gun fights and stuff, these shootouts. That's kind of what it's known for, is that, the gunfights and stuff, and the climbing. And this game really doesn't do too well with it. As well as this, one of probably the biggest flaw with it is the aiming. The aiming is awful. Usually the aim, it's like, you're looking basically right here from the shoulder, basically, or if you're in first person, but I'm not talking about first person, we're talking about third person. Usually you're aiming, when you're aiming in a video game, you're looking, like, from the shoulder. In this game, you're looking, like, from over here, like, way far away. Like, you can't even see my hand. It's like, it's weird. If you've ever played it, you know what I'm talking about. It's so weird looking. And, I thought that the story wasn't. I really and the thing about Uncharted is that a lot of what makes it memorable is its villains too. That can be said for a lot of things, and this game really doesn't do too good with the villains. Um, there's three villains actually in this game, and only one of them is really good in my opinion. That's Eddie Raja. He was awesome. He was hilarious. That's one thing I can say about this game. That and Sully. Sully always saves the day. You know, Sully's always the savior when it comes to these games. You know, if you have Sully, then it's not a horrible game. But it is my least favorite. And then like the two other villains, just like it's so weird, and like the ending, the final boss fight was just pathetic. It was a bunch of button prompts, and I I didn't like it. So yeah, that's my least favorite. Number 4, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. This was the third in the series. This was this one was decent. This one was really good. Ironically enough, these Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 3 both revolve around the same character. The story, the whole thing, it's about, like, Francis Drake. Ironically enough, the two times they talk about Francis Drake, they are my least favorite. It seems like that's just not the way to go when it comes to this series. Basically, this game was a lot like Uncharted 2. I mean, it was basically that. It was a different story. I thought it was pretty cool how they tried to go back to the origins of Nathan Drake. It was a good concept, but they didn't execute it right, if you ask me. I thought it was really cool, the whole thing with him on the rooftops as a kid, being chased by, like, those agents and stuff. I thought that was cool. However, I much prefer the whole thing in Uncharted 4. That is a lot better. And his design as a character is awful as a kid. It's like, it's really just not good looking. I don't like it. The villains were alright, even though one of them was basically the Queen of England. Like, seriously, I thought for a full second that she was the Queen of England at first. I do think that the fighting was decent. It was pretty cool how you could, like, actually grab people and throw them this time around. And, you know, the count, yeah, that's really all I can say for it. It's basically Uncharted 2, but it's just like a copy, and they've changed a few things, and that was it. The plot was decent, and sometimes it was really tedious. It was really infuriating sometimes, actually. That whole thing with the boat, a bunch of, like, destroyed, abandoned boats. I hated that. I hated that whole thing because it was so annoying getting it done. Even on normal, it's awful, and I had to go through that whole thing on hard mode just to get a trophy, just get a stupid trophy on PlayStation. That's all I can really say. It's okay though. It's really good. Still got Sully in it, so. Number 3, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. So after Uncharted 4, it was called A Thief's End. You thought that was the end of it, and it was a really good ending. However, they didn't decide to end there. They ended with Nathan Drake, but not with other characters. They actually brought back two characters. One that was in Uncharted 2 and 3, and that was Chloe. And then the second one was from Uncharted 4, Nadine Ross. Now, that was actually good. I think that game is very underrated. Maybe that's because it's very similar to Uncharted 4, and that's why it's at number 3. But I'll get to that in a minute. I think it's very underrated. I think it's very good. I like the guns. They added new guns. They always seem to add new guns. And I thought it was pretty fun. I thought all the puzzles and stuff were fun. I thought it was really, like, a lot of it was done well. The level design was very well done. I had a very fun time. I actually replayed it right after I was done with it, and I thought it was decently challenging. It wasn't like Uncharted 3 where it was like mega uber challenge. Um, However, it's at number 3 because let me explain to you. So, Uncharted is set up. Basically they say chapters, right? And it's basically like levels, basically. And usually they have like at least they have around. I'm not sure, like, I think under 20, maybe like around a 20. I don't know. I don't exactly know how it's set up, but they have only like not even 10 chapters in this game. And that's because it's so prolonged, but it's still so short. It's so short, yet so long at the same time, and it feels weird. Um, and I don't, and I guess that's why. That's a partial reason. It's not that big of a reason. My main reason, though, is that it seems almost like a DLC. It's its own game, but it feels so much like a DLC to Uncharted 4. And it's so painfully obvious too, because the thing is, Uncharted 4, there was this multiplayer option. It was alright. There's a multiplayer option, but they have the same multiplayer option in The Lost Legacy. Like, well, why? Why is the same thing in there? You're putting the same multiplayer feature in a different game? That doesn't make sense. That's where it really feels like it's just a DLC, but it's not. It's so weird, and I don't understand it. The plot was really good though. Um, Very interesting. And I love how they brought Sam Drake back. He's one of my favorite characters, and if it weren't for him, this may possibly be lower. That's the stretch, but it was either you put him in or you put Sully in. You got to have at least one of those guys in the game, or both. Which is the case when we get to Uncharted 4. So that's why that's down there, but and it's that another thing that's really good about it, though, although this could maybe be tied to it being a feeling like a DLC, but they do this well, is they do mention the past games. This game and Uncharted 4, they do that, and that's why I really like them. They mention the past games. The only thing they really mentioned about the past games in the first 3 was there wasn't really mention. It was just that, hey, Elena's there again. She was from that game. That's really it. And that's why this game does good, is that they do mention the last games. So let's get to the next thing. Number 2, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Now, hang on, before you go into the comments, so like, how dare you, that is the best game, you are wrong, you are so wrong. Now, just, please, stop. I know there's gonna be maybe one person out there. It's my opinion, alright? This is just my personal opinions. Alright? Please just chill out and hear me out. Now, I am probably gonna make a video at some point about why I think nostalgia influences opinions, because I've heard a lot of people say, Uncharted 2 is my favorite, though, just because of nostalgia. Well, that's not a reason. That's just, I could say Batman and Robin is the best Batman movie because of nostalgia, but let's be honest here, it's not. It's not. Alright? It's not the best Batman movie. Alright? That's the problem, is that nostalgia really, it's not a proper reason. If you can have an opinion, you can have an opinion, but with me, you gotta have, like, an actual reason, instead of just being like, oh, this is the best, and that's final, you know? And you can't just say, like, nostalgia, because that's not a reason. That's not something the movie does well. That's something you have for a movie. That doesn't make it the best, though. However, I'm not saying this game is bad. This is a very good game. And if it weren't for my number 1 spot, it would probably be in the number 1. That's the only reason it's at number 2. I do have maybe, like, one thing that I don't like about it, and I'll get to that, but let me just talk about why it's good. This game is good because it improved so much on Uncharted 1. And not only that, but became a great game because of it. And the games that came after, and the game that came after it, it's like, okay, but it didn't improve on anything. This did, and it kept that going, and it was really great. The climbing was better. The aiming was amazing. The fights and everything were awesome. The gunfights, it was amazing. But there's one thing. Just please hear me out. And that's Lazarevich. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, he's the best villain. Because, like, there's been, like, it's the same thing with Uncharted 2 versus Uncharted 4. It's like that, except people actually fight over the villains, too. Some people think it's Uncharted 4's villain, and some people think it's Uncharted 2's villain. And the thing with Uncharted 2's villain for me is that he's nothing new. Like, okay, can be scary sometimes, but he's not anything new. In fact, he reminds me of Bane, if anything, from Batman. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, now I may be wrong, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Lazarevich is voiced by the same guy who voices Bane in the Batman Arkham games. And maybe that's why it reminds me so much, but I may be wrong there, but if not, he just really sounds like him. And he just reminds me of Bane. He's like Bane, but he's not as, like, big and muscular. He's still big and muscular, and that's, like, really his whole thing. There's nothing really to him except that he's big and muscular for me. Like, sure, he's I don't know. I just don't think he's as everything he's cracked up to be. I don't know. But still, very good game. Especially the train sequence. Lost Legacy did kind of steal that towards the end. But still, it was fun. But it was much better in this. You got to use, like, a freaking turret against a helicopter. So now let's get to the number one. Number one. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Oh my god. This is not only my favorite in the Uncharted series, but my favorite video game of all time. I have played this game at least 10 times already, and a lot of those were me speedrunning it. If I ever get on Twitch, that's going to be the first thing I play. I'm going to try to speedrun that. That game is so good. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. I can't think of a single flaw. It's amazing. The gameplay, the climbing and the gunfights, and the whole story. The story is the best. Whether you like Uncharted 2 better than Uncharted 4 or not, you must admit, Uncharted 4 has the best story. The best plot and story of all time. It is amazing. Throughout Uncharted 1 and 3, there's no really development in Nathan Drake. Even at the end of Uncharted 3, we didn't know if he was... I mean, there was signs that he was getting... Unless I haven't played in a while, there wasn't really anything big that would suggest that, hey, he's done with treasure hunting and stuff. It's just we thought he was still a treasure hunter. He doesn't really change at all throughout it. But this game, he does. He and Elena are very human in this. And that's what I love about them. They're so good in this game. It's amazing. Sam Drake, like his brother coming out of nowhere, they played that so perfectly. They played it so perfectly. Like, it actually made sense. He didn't talk about it because he didn't want to bring him back up because he thought he was dead in that prison. And that's the thing. These level designs are amazing. So good. So freaking good. It's so unique. But possibly my favorite part of this game, the villain. My favorite video game villain of all time, Rafe Adler. Possibly one of my favorite villains in general. He's so awesome. He's so amazing. And he gives one of the greatest boss fights in all of video game history, if you ask me. Maybe not even my favorite boss fight. It may not be. It may be. I don't even, it's possibly my favorite boss fight, because it's so unique and good. You have to fight him with, you have to, like, fence him, you have to, like, fight him with swords, get into a sword fight, but it's not like, oh, hit, counter. No, you have to, like, use the buttons. Like, triangle, I think, was left block, and then circle was right block, and it was, you had to use that, and then, like, it's so great and amazing, and I love it so much. And like I said, the whole thing with them as kids, and showing how they got the Drake name, it's so great, and I love it. So that's it for this one, guys. Go down to the description to see my name, or not my name, my Instagram, my friend's Instagram, my friend's channels. Check them out. They're very good. They got very good content. Check it out. And that's about it for today, guys. And once again, my personal opinions. Don't start going like, oh, you're wrong. Clearly the best is Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3. Please, don't be that guy. I'm begging you. That's it for today, guys. See ya.